Welcome, everybody, to Off the Cuff. I am Adam Banks. Thank you for listening to the show. And in the studio, I have probably one of my favorite people of all time. I've known her since I was 7 years old. Miss Amber Hall is in the studio with me. Amber, how are you doing?
Hello, Mr. Banks. It is wonderful to see you.
You know, you have been listening to Off the Cuff since its beginning, since March 2014.
I did. We actually, my husband and I both listened to the very first episode that you put out.
Yeah.
Try to support.
Big fans of the show, big fans of me.
Big fans of the show, even bigger fans of you.
I appreciate it. Well, you know, we've been trying to get you on the show since the beginning.
Yes.
I've been wanting you to come in and do this, so this is a big moment for me.
I feel like you put me on the back burner to have other...
Not necessarily. I mean, it makes sense to me that you're on the show because when I'm with you, our chemistry is just impeccable. And, like, our banter, there's nothing else like it.
Permeates, and I think people around us within, like, a 5-mile radius kind of pick up on it.
They do. So I was like, why don't I have her on the show? And I've been doing this show for almost 3 years now. I have been doing it for 3 years.
Yes, you just had your, what was it, the 100th?
150.
Oh, jeez.
150, 3 years. So I just had the 150, and I have yet to have you on. So this is like episode 158, and you're finally here.
I'm finally here.
So we go back from our early days. Tell the audience how we met. We met in second grade, right?
Second grade. Adam and I both started at Beaver Creek Elementary. Go Beavers.
Beaver Creek Elementary.
Elementary. BCS.
Should have been a beaver.
Should have been a beaver. And my first impression of Adam was that he was a dickhead. Because I'm pretty sure that the first question I asked him was like how he was doing that day, and he like gave me some cocky attitude and was like, whatever. And I don't know at that point if I actually felt pissed off or if I went home and cried. Probably went home and cried, but things just continued, and next thing you know, we're best friends, and then next thing you know, it's been 23 years.
But just telling people how we've met and telling people that we're friends
doesn't even scratch the surface.
It don't. Like our relationship is so authentic, and it's so different from any type of friendship that I've had because we do a lot of weird stuff together.
We do a lot of weird things together.
I mean, we've been doing weird stuff since 1996, but we started really getting into weird stuff like when we got into high school.
Yes.
Do you remember, like, I think our first, like, weird thing when we started to become real weird was I used to go on dates. And after...
No, let's back up a little bit. The first weird thing we ever done was we planned out our life in Los Angeles.
We did.
And we drew a map of how our apartment was going to be set up. And we even said we were going to buy 2 lazy boys. One for me and one for you. But we were going to live together. And actually, if I go through all of my stuff upstairs, I still have that sketch that we made sophomore year. Was it algebra or trigonometry?
It was geometry.
Geometry.
Louanna Adams.
Adams.
You sit behind me.
Yes. He always used to steal my Celine Dion perfume out of my purse.
Well, because it smelled so good. I used to like to spray it in the air.
Yes,
not really put it on me, but I used to spray it in the air. But yeah, I remember that sketch. And we were not joking around.
No, there was no joke.
We were really serious. I had the conversation with my dad about it.
We wrote out the Hollywood sign, and you always said you wanted to see it in what letter?
The O.
The O. You always wanted to be in the O.
Yeah. So one day we're going to have to get a picture.
We do have a picture with the Hollywood sign.
But we don't have a picture with me in the O.
No. I think that's illegal now, though.
You can't, like, get up there near it?
No, because I think somebody jumped.
Really?
Yeah, they had a jumper.
Oh, wow. Out of all these years, there's never been a jumper until recently.
I'm not really for sure, but I think this is the most publicized one.
So, yeah, we drew up that drawing. We planned our life together. I had this conversation with my dad. Hey, Dad, after high school, I'm going to move to UCLA and live out in California and live with Amber. And he was just like... And surprisingly, he took me serious. Like, he was like, yeah. Like, if you really want to make this happen, we can make this happen. But, that was just something that I think reality kind of hit us in the face when we became seniors.
Yes.
Because we knew that living to L.A., 2 people from a head of a holler really couldn't move to L.A. At 18 years old and live on their own.
No.
So the next best thing was us going to California just to visit.
Yes.
And that was a blast.
But let's first back up a little bit because we actually went on another trip before we went to Los Angeles. We went to Chicago.
And watched Jerry Springer.
And we watched, from the audience, not on the stage, we watched Too Hot for TV episode of Jerry Springer.
Naughty Nightmares.
Yes. You can actually see me and Adam Banks in this YouTube clip that they have on...
What do you type in to find it?
You just type in Naughty Nightmares Jerry Springer, and it will pull it up, and you can see us. We actually originally were sitting in the back, but it's funny how we got there, because I think the trip to get there was actually more intense than actually being on this show that, we had joked about going to for years.
Yeah.
So, here we are, two rednecks, trying to maneuver around in Chicago. Yeah.
Never really drove at a big metropolitan
area.
No,
we had never been, I had never driven by myself in a city.
No.
And I decided I was going to dress comfortable to drive up there. Remember? Because I had drove all night the night before to pick you up in Elizabethtown from, was it Tum Tum?
Yeah.
Tum Tum.
No, Evan. It was Evan.
Evan.
Yeah.
Yes. So, we get there, and my roommate at the time was with us, and she decides, she's like, okay, I'll get up front and I'll drive, So I get in the back. I am stripping in the back of this car. People going by, honking at me because I am trying, tits going everywhere. I'm trying to put my clothes on. And so we finally make it into the city. We finally make it to where, our destination was to be, and we pass it up because we had to find parking. So we pulled into the first parking lot that we found. And what we quickly realized when we came out of the show was that every parking structure looked the same.
Yeah, and see, we took it as, because we're from Eastern Kentucky, we're like, oh yeah, we park into a parking spot, it's easy, come out of the building, we find it.
Come out of the building, find it. No.
We walked out of NBC Studios that night completely and utterly lost. Could not find our vehicle. We searched for how many hours? 2?
I think it was 2.5.
Yeah.
And by that time, Ashley, my roommate at the time, she had actually just came back from auditioning with Memphis Grizzlies.
Yeah.
And she actually, went on to, be a Memphis girl on their dance team.
Yeah.
But she was exhausted. We were exhausted. And,
at this point, you two were almost in tears.
Yes.
Because we didn't think we were going to find our car.
No. And, we had been walking around for 2.5 hours. I mean, we had stopped and ate. And, we tried to bust it up a little. Yeah. So, lo and behold, Ashley knows people from everywhere. So, she had a friend that she called. So this rando picks us up in downtown Chicago at midnight and helps us find our car. And luckily we find our car. So remember, he picked us up.
Ridiculous. I remember that. He was he was young too.
Yes, he was our age.
Yeah, he was our age, and he picked us up. Yeah,
in a Beamer at 18.
Yeah,
and I was like, we drove up here in a Toyota.
Yeah. but the big thing to the story was we got to see Jerry Springer.
We not only got to see Jerry Springer, but you had a moment and you reached out and you grabbed Jerry Springer.
I got to meet Jerry Springer. People don't believe me when I see...
No.
Now, I'm so glad that you're on the show because you can actually confirm these things. I met Jerry Springer.
You shook Jerry Springer's hand.
He was walking by. You know how Jerry walks by and he's, kind of just walking by doing the show.
Observing the audience.
Well, he was had his back turned to me. He was beside me. I said, I'm not going to let this opportunity pass me by. Jerry Springer, a legend, a TV icon, is sitting 2 feet from me.
I don't even think it was that far.
2 feet. Not even that. I mean, his suit was brushing up against my white shirt. And I wore white because it would stand out. And
his hair was absolutely ridiculous.
And I always made sure that when the audience would stand up and clap, I was always the
loudest.
The last one to sit down so people would see me sit down. And Jerry was standing beside me, and I just tapped him on the shoulder. And I remember you were like, what's he doing? And then Jerry turns around, he sees me, just has the biggest grin on his face because he sees that I'm just geeking out.
And he was.
Because Jerry was looking at me, and I was just held my hand out. Jerry took my hand, he shook it. And then he kind of made small talk.
Yeah, he's hey man.
Talking about his teeth and his wisdom teeth, how his mouth hurts. I was like, Jerry just told me his mouth hurts. So it was such a fun experience. So we just do random stuff like that.
Wait, there's even a better portion to that story. When we originally got there, remember we thought we were too late to get our tickets, and we thought we were not going to make it back. And that is unfortunately something that you will find as a common denominator between Adam and I when we go to these talk shows. There is always a last minute crisis. And this will lead into another story that we will reveal later on. But there's always a last minute crisis. Are we going to make it in? We've done everything up to this point, but are we getting in?
Are we getting through the door?
And we made it.
Yes.
We made it. We did not think we were going to make it. And unfortunately, Ashley and I had to sit in the floor. Remember when we originally went in? Because first you walk into a room and you have to sign away like your constitutional rights. Mm-hmm. You know, you don't have the right to bear arms. You don't have the right of free speech. Like they pretty much tell you sit there, shut up, you know, and
just
clap.
watch the show.
Just watch the show and clap. Don't touch anybody. So we originally started in the absolute back corner. And if you watch Naughty Nightmares, you will see that we go from the back corner being the loudest almost to the front of the stage. Yeah. Like we are directly in camera shot. Like
they move us because we're being so boisterous and loud.
Yes, and they actually tell you that when you go in, that the louder you are, the more likely you are to get moved up.
And I just like, if you watch this show, audience, and you watch this show of Jerry Springer, Naughty Nightmares, and you will see like this scene where it's just ass, tits, my face.
Yes.
Because like it's just like the way the camera shots are, it's like ass, tits, and then my face is just smiling.
Adam Banks' face with his big old Farrah Fawcett hair, just sitting there with that big white ass shirt on.
Yeah, and it was 2007. Did you know that on that day, the day we went to Jerry Springer was the day of the Virginia Tech shooting?
Was it?
Yes, because we were sitting in the audience waiting, or we were sitting in the waiting room in NBC Studios to go into the Jerry Springer studio, and it was breaking news that the Virginia Tech shooting happened. It happened that day. It was that day.
I just remember being in my dorm and watching that. I did not realize it happened that day.
Yeah, it was. And
that's scary.
It really was. So, but what I loved about that show was the studio, much smaller than...
definitely a lot smaller than what I intended it to be.
What it looks like on TV.
I really expected it to, kind of be elaborate, but it wasn't. They had cheap, like, Walmart Halloween decorations up on the stage.
These chairs were just like old movie chairs.
Yes, they were old movie chairs, and Steve was there.
Steve was there. Steve was actually almost getting ready to do his own show because Jerry announced that Steve was getting his own show. And also Jerry announced that he was about to become the new host of America's Got Talent.
Yes, he did.
So all of that. What I loved was Jerry, like a lot of things, Jerry would talk to us a lot off the air.
Yes, they actually talk a lot to you off there. I think more than what people realize.
They do promos off the air.
Yes,
they do commercial little skits throughout the, during the breaks and stuff. But it was just a cool experience to see that show filmed.
Well, I think the thing that kind of got me was I always wondered what prompts these people to chant things. Like, what prompts them to,
And we found that out.
Show me your dick. Because I'm pretty sure that was a statement that we said. And you find out that they have a hype man. Like, I don't know what else to call him other than a hype man.
Yeah.
They have this guy who stands off, off camera, and he gets the crowd first ready for Jerry to come out. Mm-hmm. And then as you're going through the show, he will pick phrases for you to say. So it's not like an audience member, because you always hear somebody holler out first, show me your dick.
Always. If you go back and listen to it, you'll hear that, and you'll always hear, like if everybody wants to go, oh, you'll hear that guy's voice first. He'll go, oh, and then like you just kind of follow on, because they kind of lie to you at the beginning. They say, if you're not loud enough, do you remember them saying this? They said, if your audience is not loud enough, we will not air your show.
Yep.
So, we know that's BS, because they would air the show because of the money and production
costs.
But they just are saying that with the incentive of be loud, because the audience makes the show.
The audience makes the show. And the atmosphere in that room, I don't think we will ever have again.
That was so much fun.
Because it was just a bunch of, college-aged kids who...
And there was 30-year-olds in there, too. That was just...
they were just it was just a congregation of people who just wanted to have a good time.
Yeah.
Like, there was absolutely no drama.
Yeah.
Like, the fights on the stage, were kind of awkward because, there was vagina juices going everywhere. It was kind of awkward. But, it was just the hype and, I think just the all-around feeling of being at Jerry Springer, the show that you watch when you stay home sick from school, the show that you sneak and watch from your parents,
Yeah, because
we're here.
It amazed me, because I was sitting there, while I was sitting there, it was surreal the whole time we were in that studio audience, watching it being filmed and seeing Jerry. I honestly had to sit there to myself and think, am I really is this reality? Is this what's going on? I'm not watching this on TV. Am I really watching this with my own personal eyes? But, you know, when we watch that, you know, it makes you think, like, people need to experience stuff like that. We need to go back and do Maury. We need to watch Maury.
We could do Maury.
I think Maury would be great.
We could do Maury.
I mean, do you have another show that you would like to watch that's in mind? I mean, I would love to watch.
I would have loved to went to Conan.
That's what I was about to say. I would love to watch Conan.
To went to Conan.
We could still go. It's in Burbank, California.
We could do that.
Warner Brothers Studio. We could still do that. But, you know, speaking of Conan, we did watch a late night show.
We did. We did watch a late night show. It was not filmed late night, though.
It was not. 5 o'clock, 5:30?
Yeah, 5-ish. I guess it was like 8-ish our time.
Yeah.
So Adam and I decided that we really wanted to go to California.
And the reason being because, like we said in the beginning, we were going to move to California, so the next best thing instead of moving was just to go visit.
Exactly. So it was kind of like this unspoken thing between he and I that, you know, we always had this dream, this is where we want to be, and this is what we want to do. And, you know, by this point, you know, Adam was going to Moorhead, I was going to Murray State. You know, we kind of realized, okay, this isn't going to work out. But luckily, you know, we were able to get money together, and we were able to go for, what, 4?
We went for 4 or 5 days in LA.
Days.
We were 20 years old.
No, I was 19.
I was 19 then.
We were 19.
I was 19 because
we traveled like 3,000 miles away at 19.
At 19, and we were not old enough to get a hotel room.
No,
like your mom had to get the room.
Yes, my mother had to reserve the room. But I think the even funnier part of that was, you know, we finalized our plans. Because we met in Lexington for a very special event. I had left my camera in my dorm room, so I was a little distraught. Yeah. So we had to run to Radio Shack prior to this event that we were going to, and so we contacted with your sister. Your sister actually was our chauffeur that night because neither one of us knew how to get around Lexington, and we were going to the Hannah Montana Jonas Brothers concert. And I had spent so much money on these tickets because I had to go. I was in love with the Jonas Brothers. Yeah. So I had to go.
And they were an opening act, too.
They were the opening act.
It wasn't even their concert.
No, it was not. It was the Miley Cyrus tour.
You just wanted to go to see the Jonas Brothers opening act.
Yes, like we could have left after, you know, the Jonas Brothers.
And you would have been fine.
I would have been fine.
Yeah.
So we get there, and, you know, of course our seats are high up, you know, but still these things were like $300 a piece. Like, they were expensive.
Yeah.
So we go because you were going to buy Madison a shirt.
It might have been Madison a shirt, yeah.
I think
my cousin Madison a shirt.
I think you were buying Madison a shirt.
Because she was big into Hannah Montana, yeah.
Yes. So we walk out, you know, to the concession stand, and, you know, this is really kind of my first experience of being in Rupp Arena, so I had no clue where we were going.
Yeah.
So we finally make it to where the shirts are, and, you know, we're sitting in line, and we're sitting there, and I keep hearing this little girl behind us giggle, and I thought, what is wrong with this little girl? And next thing you know, I see a little hand tapping Adam on the back, and she very politely said, "Are you one of the Jonas Brothers?" And I thought, oh, little girl.
She thought I was a Jonas Brother.
She thought you were a Jonas Brother.
She wanted me to take a picture with her, and her mom was like...
You took pictures with her?
Yeah, her mom was like, will you just take a picture with her? She really wants a picture with you. So I took a picture. So somewhere on this little girl's Facebook, she's probably 20 now.
Yeah, like she's thinking straight up that she met one of the, like... But like the long-lost Jonas Brothers.
She posted a picture of me and her online because I noticed there was this girl just kept staring at me, this little girl, and I was like, what is she staring at? And her mom just says, excuse me, she thinks you're a Jonas Brother. Will you just take a picture with her?
So that kind of set, you know, the mood for the rest of the night. You know, Adam's head's, you know, swollen.
I'm rich and famous Jonas Brother.
Yeah, like he was just absolutely, you know, I don't think I heard the end of that for a long time.
But when we went to the Jimmy Kimmel show, when we watched that show that was filmed at 5 o'clock, that was probably... I was a fan of Jimmy Kimmel.
I actually was a fan of Jimmy Kimmel as well.
That was fun for me, and I was so excited when we first got there because, you know, it's just stuff like that just fascinates me. I just get in awe. So when we walked into the studio again, yet another small studio, we walked in and, you know, they had the stage there and it looks exactly like it does on TV. And then, you know, Jimmy Kimmel's, he's coming out, sitting at his desk at this point. And, you know, I'm just like looking around, smiling, like not paying attention to anywhere I'm going. And all of a sudden I trip.
He tripped. You tripped.
Yeah.
That is correct.
Yeah.
But not only did he trip, but he fell into this woman's lap.
Yeah.
And her boyfriend's response was to immediately get up and almost beat your ass.
Yeah, because he thought I was just kind of like all over his woman.
Yeah, like trying to. But what they didn't realize was like the camera was like right there.
Yeah.
So we had to maneuver around, this big camera post. And then, there was not much leg room. It really was kind of like being in a movie theater where, or like actually sitting in an airplane.
Yeah.
Like where people are getting up and down. So like there was very little room to move around. But I physically had to tell this guy, he's with me.
But when I fall, I don't just fall. I make a big scene out of it.
He makes a huge...
I grab the girl is what it is. Like, I grab her on my way down, and, like, everybody's like, ah! Like, oh, no! And, like, even Jimmy Kimmel, I think, looks up from his desk and is like, is everything okay? And we're like, he's okay. And, what's funny is that when they went to commercial break, they played that as, like, a little replay. They played that, how like they do the slow motion. They was like showing me just like falling down. People don't believe me when I tell them that we do stuff like this.
We used to have a very adventurous life. Now, I think obviously the highlight of the California trip for Adam was Jimmy Kimmel. Mm-hmm. The highlight for me was. I guess I should start this off with...
That wasn't my highlight, but go ahead. I'll tell you my highlight. Go ahead.
Well, Adam and I fight a lot. We fight about everything. I like to think that everything is his fault, and he likes to think that everything is my fault. So we are continuous. It's like this vicious cycle of us blaming one another for things that really, just kind of happen. Yeah. So... we decided, because we both love the Oscars. Yeah. We both love the Oscars. So we went to the Kodak Theater. We spent a lot of time at the Kodak Theater.
Yes, yes.
And I was trying to take photos of us walking on the stairs. Adam wanted a picture. And if you actually look on my Facebook, you will see all those pictures.
And the stairs that you're talking about is the stairs that the
stars walk.
Nominees and the presenters walk up before the Oscar ceremony starts. Yep. Yeah, it was those stairs.
So he decides he wants a picture
on those stairs.
And I was very happy to oblige. So I go to take his photo, and something happened. Like, my camera was on my wrist.
And it swung.
And it hit the railing on the side, and it wouldn't come on after that. Yeah. So my first instinct was to look at Adam and be like, look what you done did.
Look what you brought to my camera.
Yeah. So, we noticed on the side of the stairs there was a Kodak store. Mm-hmm. So we went in there, and I got new batteries, and sure enough, my camera came back on, and, it probably just dislodged one of the batteries is kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, you just freaked out. And I think you were just kind of like, we were at that point to where we might have been getting on each other's nerves at this point.
I think we were.
Any little thing was just, we was just quick to put blame on one another. But what's bizarre about that, did you know Kodak's not even a company that's in business anymore?
No, it's not.
That's amazing. A company like Kodak is out of business. But the highlight, just to add on to that story, the highlight was actually in that day, in that moment, getting to see the Oscars. Like, I am a big fan of the Oscars, just like you are. And I love watching the Oscar ceremony, how they have it, just the star power and all that. Us getting to go there and tour the Kodak Theater and getting to go behind the stage and see where they had Ellen DeGeneres' dressing room. Yep. They were talking about how Jon Stewart was going to be hosting the next year, and this is where his dressing room would be. This is where the host hangs out. They took us back and showed us where the nominees hang out during the show and drink.
We got to see that.
How, you can see through the window and see them, but they can't see you throughout the window because they don't want to be bothered by that. And they were like, there was all these pictures on the wall of like former winners. Like, that stuff was really cool. They actually took us on stage and let us stand where the host stands, where the presenters stand. And we got to look out into a blank auditorium at the Kodak Theater of what it's like to pretend like what it was like to win an Oscar. That was the highlight of my trip.
But what made that even better? They took us off stage and allowed us to sit in seats.
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure you sat in the seat that Jay-Z sat in, and I sat in the seat that Beyonce sat in. So my ass has been exactly where Beyonce's ass has been.
Exactly.
So, I mean, that in itself was kind of,
That was, and, I was sitting where Jay-Z sat.
Yeah.
Jay-Z, come on now.
It was just... I think that moment, we'll never recapture a moment like that.
That's when it really, hit us, because we were sitting there in those seats, and that tour guy was like, I think you, and he pointed at me and you, and he said, you guys are sitting where Jay-Z and Beyonce were sitting, the cast of Dreamgirls and all that. And I was like, wow. I remember watching that.
Yep.
Because remember Jennifer Hudson won the Oscar, and Beyonce was sitting there. I mean, that's just, that stuff was cool. I mean, who can say they did that?
Well, So, here we are. We're kind of, high at this point, just, from all the adrenaline, that we've got running. So we decide the tour's over. We're gonna go eat. So we're gonna just kind of walk around, because if you've ever been to California, the Kodak Theater is kind of like a little strip mall.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could take elevator and or stairs down, and they had like a Jamba Juice, which we just got in Kentucky. So at that time, nobody knew what that was. And they had a couple of different, like I think they had like a Jimmy Choo store and like a Versace store in there.
Mm-hmm.
So all of these things obviously we could not afford. I don't even think we could afford the Jamba Juice at the time. So we decide we're going to take the elevator. So we get on the elevator.
And it's Hollywood, keep it in mind.
It's Hollywood.
Land of stars. And
on walks this woman. And, I'm kind of zoned out a little bit because, again, like Adam said, we were both kind of like, we were riding each other the whole time. So it was kind of like, all right, like, we're pissed off at each other, basically. That's the easiest way to say it. So this girl gets on the elevator, and, well, not a girl, she was a woman. She gets on the elevator, and I noticed that Adam starts to talk to her. And I thought, what in the hell is he doing? For some reason, for many years, I was very overprotective of him. I probably shouldn't have been. But I literally, like, get ready to scrap with this girl. Like, my beaver is coming out so hard and heavy at this moment, because I'm like, what the fuck is she doing? And I'm pretty sure I said that.
Might have been, yeah. And she kind of looked at you, and her family kind of looked at you, was like, who is this? And like, what is she mad about?
Yeah, so like, I'm getting hype over here because he is having a conversation with this woman, and I finally look her dead in the eyes, and lo and behold, it's Raven from That's So Raven.
Yeah, it's Raven Simone. And what the funny thing about that whole thing is she's a lesbian.
She's a lesbian.
So like, she was definitely not interested in me. We were just being friendly with each other.
Yeah, you were just talking.
And I remember, like, but it was shocking because Raven always seemed taller to me, but she
was very short.
Very short.
And she was chubby.
Very short and chunky.
Yeah.
And it was just crazy. But it was weird that when you are in Hollywood, you will see random stars.
You will see people.
You will be on the elevator with people.
Yes.
You will pass people by. You will be sitting at Jamba Juice and look over and maybe see Nicolas Cage drinking a Slurpee.
And we did actually see quite a few people while we were there. We went to
the Ivy.
We went to the Ivy, which
5-star restaurant.
Yes, 5-star restaurant. I had to make reservations 2 months in advance.
You have to dress up.
You had to dress up, and luckily we were going out that night because it was New Year's Eve.
Mm-hmm.
We were going out that night, so not only were we in California, but we got to celebrate New Year's Eve in California.
In Beverly Hills. At the Ivy. Do you know the Ivy is in Beverly Hills?
Yes.
We were in Beverly Hills on New Year's Eve. How did we get a reservation?
I think I had to call, and unfortunately my mother, had given me a credit card.
But who were we to get reservations at the Ivy on New Year's Eve?
We didn't get reservations on us. We got reservations because I had my mom's credit card.
Okay, because I was going to say, you got Hollywood, you got millionaires, actors, celebrities, and then you got 2 people from Beaver.
And And what was funny is, we're sitting here and, we're eating, and I had never been to a 5-star restaurant before. I had been to really nice places growing up, but I had never been to a 5-star restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not like I never got out of Beaver. I had traveled all over the, kind of all over the world at this point because my mother, was a traveler.
Yeah.
But, here I am, I'm by myself, my mom's not here, like, this is all me. And I noticed that the Coke that they brought us was Coke in the bottle.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
I do.
And they let us know up front that it was $10 a piece if you got an additional one.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, Adam.
Oh, yeah. How about choke to death?
Drink that slowly.
How about choke to death on my food because I didn't want to drink?
Yeah, drink that slowly. So, we're sitting here and, again, we're kind of geeking again because here we are, we're in this, infamous restaurant where all of these famous people go. And this couple sitting beside of us decides that they're not going to eat all their food. Mm-hmm. So they look at Adam and I, and they're like, oh, do you want to take this home to your dog? And I was like, what? What?
Is this what people in Beverly Hills do? They take their scraps from a 5-star Ivy League from a 5-star Ivy the Ivy restaurant, the Ivy League, the Ivy restaurant, and feed it to their dog.
To their dog. Like, it kind of took me back a minute because I was like,
no, we'll take it back.
Take it back and eat it.
I mean, we don't want it for a dog.
I mean, this is probably, like, it was almost like $60 a plate. Mm-hmm. Like, regardless of what you got, it was like $60 a plate. Because I think our bill was like over $200. And we got things that were on, like, the cheaper side of the menu.
Yeah, I think my meal, even after it being so cheap, was like $60.
Oh no, our bill was like almost $200.
That's crazy.
Yeah, because they automatically make you tip. Like, you don't have an option. So like, tip was automatically like $50. So it was like, okay. Okay, whatever.
A lot of crazy memories, like a lot of stuff, and like I think one of the first things that I was going to say before we started with all these stories was in high school I would go on dates. And then after my dates, I would come and spend the night at your house.
He would come to me like
after the dates,
and
watch a movie.
I remember,
or go out to eat.
Specifically, he went on a date, and I don't think you enjoyed the date at all. I think you just didn't want to say anything about it. But he would make me tell him all the time that he was pretty. Like, I'm pretty sure that was like something that was like just a no. Don't eat paper. Oh, sorry. I was like, sorry, you will notice that. I mean, this has been us for years.
Yeah, I was eating paper just now. But go ahead.
But he used to come to me like if he had any inkling of like self-doubt, he knew that he could come and boost his ego with me. So he had went on a date with someone I never saw him going on a date with. I don't even know how you...
Who was it? It was Keisha?
I don't even know what her last name is.
I can't remember her last name either.
So he went on this date. I mean, very pretty girl. She's a very pretty girl. But he called me, like, as soon as the date was done. I think he texted me, actually, because that's right when texting kind of got, like, kind of big.
Yeah, kind of big.
You had texted me, and by this point, I had moved from Beaver to Hazard. And
big city.
Yeah, the big city of Hazard.
Yeah.
And I pretty much had an apartment to myself, because my mother was married to my father. He is my stepfather, but he was an orthopedic surgeon at the hospital. So we had a bigger house up on the hill. It was actually known as Snob Knob Hill, and that will come into play a little later on. We'll talk about some more Snob Knob stories. So I said Snob Knob. Yeah,
Snob. Yeah,
Snob
Knob.
Snob Knob Hill.
They call it Snob Knob because it's just a house full of rich people.
Yeah,
a hill full of rich people.
A hill full of rich people. So I pretty much had this apartment, really nice apartment, completely to myself. And, Adam would call me randomly and be like, hey, I'm going to come over. Hey, I'm on my way. Hey, I'll be there in 5 minutes. Hey, I'm at your door. Like, it was never like, hey, can I come over? It was always like, hey, I'm at your door.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm on my way. Yeah. Hey, I'll be there in 5 minutes.
Because I hate making specific plans to sit down and hang out with somebody. To me, true and real friendships and real relationships,
it
happens. Like, you don't have to plan it. Like, I hate like having to plan.
Like, I will be there at 4:15.
Yeah, like I like pop-ins because and when you're really truly friends with somebody, you can really do.
You can just pop in. But on this particular night, he sent me a text and he was like, "Hey, I'm gonna come over." And I'm pretty sure we, as soon as you pulled in, we immediately left and went to Taco Bell. Mm-hmm. And I feel like there was something funny that happened that night, but it's just not coming to mind right now. I'll probably think about it, 2 years from now and be like, oh, that's what happened. But then, we proceed to get, Taco Bell, and I was obsessed with Jeremy Sumter. Mm-hmm. Obsessed. So we go back to my house, or I guess my apartment, and we lay in my bed and we eat Taco Bell and we watch Cyber Seduction, His Secret Life.
Starring
Jeremy Sumter. And then that's what we done. After he's like went on this date with this very pretty girl, but you could you weren't feeling it.
Yeah, so when you have a bad date, just go to your best friend's house and watch
watch awkward Lifetime
movies with Jeremy Sumter.
Yeah, it just
But anyway, that's just a little background story of me and Amber, like how we know each other.
And that's just the surface.
That don't even scratch it.
If you're friends with us, you know that there's so many more stories.
Yeah, and hopefully I can get you on more of these to where...
Oh, I'll think of some really good ones.
Where we're going to be able to just bring up memories as we go along. And
I do have to add this one. Yeah. My mother and father have moved to Texas, so I actually got to live in the rich house. And... I used to party a lot. And Adam would always come over, and hang out. and you had just went to Ecuador. And he had just gotten back from Ecuador, and I missed him so bad because I hadn't talked to him.
Yeah.
So
because you can't talk to other people in different countries back in the day.
Back in the day, there was no like communicate. You couldn't, call internationally.
Yeah.
And so you had just gotten home, and he comes up and he's telling me about this girl that he met in Ecuador, and how he really liked her. And I'm like, but how you gonna keep in touch? And he's like, oh, she's got Singular. And I was like, what? Okay.
She's got Singular, because Singular to Singular was free texting.
Was free, but not internationally.
Yes,
and that's what he wasn't clicking with him. Was like, dude, she's in another country.
She's
you can't talk to her.
Like, okay.
And I was just like, okay. I'm pretty sure that was my response. I was like, okay. But every now and again, when I'm feeling kind of sad, I will call him. And usually that's some of the first words that come out of my mouth is, she has Singular.
You lived on Snob Knob. I remember you lived at the very top of the hill.
Yes,
I did. You lived in
a
very beautiful house. We partied in the summer of 2007 all summer. That was one of the best summers of my life. It was the first summer of home from college for all of us. So it was a really good summer to do that because we all hadn't seen each other in a year. And when we would come back to your house, everybody from high school would be at these parties. It was just good to catch up.
It was.
So many memories that summer.
There was a lot of memories that summer.
That was the best summer of my life. One of the best.
It was one of the best. I won't say the best, but it was definitely one of the best.
It was so much fun.
There was just a lot of things that happened in that summer, a lot of drinking.
It was.
A lot of drinking.
Beside of you in that house was the biggest house on that hill.
The biggest house on that hill.
And he his name was Dr. Chaney.
Dr. James Chaney.
And he was
I'm sorry, Dr. H. Chaney. James is the brother. Dr. H. Chaney.
And what kind of doctor was he? General practitioner?
He worked in the ER, and then he decided he was going to go out on his own. And if you are familiar with Hazard, you will know that he created Ace Clinique of medicine.
He created that?
Yes, he built that. He actually half-funded the Markey Cancer Center in Hazard, and he also built the clinic, which was directly, at the beginning of Snob Knob Hill.
Very, very rich man.
Yes, when you would come up, I literally lived on the top of the hill. So there were 4 houses up there, and as soon as you start to come up the last little bit of the hill, you really think that it's going to end at his house, because the driveway just kind of goes to his house. I mean, elaborate house. I mean,
it looked like
beautiful.
Something off the OC.
Yes,
or Laguna Beach.
It was not something that should have been in Hazard, Kentucky by any means. But then, you made the curve and you would go on over to my house. And what was funny was, my parents had designated me the grass cutter. Mm-hmm. I was in charge of keeping the grass looking nice and neat because my parents were actively trying to sell this house. So I would go out, every other day, in my short shorts and my rain boots, and I would weed eat and I would cut the grass. And this little sack of shit, Chaney's daughter, would come riding through on her golf cart, and she would ride right through my yard.
And how old was she?
She was 6.
Yeah.
So here's this little girl, 6 years old, cruising on a golf cart through my grass that I had just cut. I mean, leaving tire tracks. So I thought I was going to beat this little girl to death. But, back in the day, I used to babysit her when she was a lot younger. And when I mean younger, she was 5.
So you know the Cheneys.
Yes, I do.
So let's tell the audience about what's going on with the Chaney, Dr. Chaney.
Well, unfortunately, Dr. Chaney found himself in a little bit of a mess.
Okay.
A little bit of a mess.
Just a tad bit of a mess.
Just a tad bit of a mess. He was very prominently known, and he is still very prominently known in our area.
Right.
People, whether or not you liked him or not, you kind of had to respect him because, his entire family, he comes from an entire family, all of his brothers are physicians, and he's the standout one. He's the one who, he did give, the Cancer Markey Center, to, Hazard. That's not something we'd had before. Mm-hmm. And, he had put a lot of, funding into making Hazard a better place.
And he had other businesses. He put other small businesses in Hazard.
He did.
He had the movie theater.
Yes, he did. He partially owned the movie theater. So, I mean, there was just a lot of things that this man done for the greater good. It's just, unfortunately, you get a little rich and you get a little goofy. Mm-hmm. I know what I would call it, but I'm a big PC. I'm gonna call it hood rich. Mm-hmm. People get hood rich,
and he did.
And he did. He got very rich very fast. I mean, back to babysitting his daughter, she tried to trade me Coach purses one time. Like, here's this little 5-year-old girl carrying a Coach purse, and I got my first Coach purse when I was like 17.
But what'd he do?
So, Dr. Chaney, again, opened Ace Clinic of Medicine, which was technically considered a pain management clinic. And for anybody who knows me, I'm a lab supervisor. My husband's a lab tech. So, now that I understand pain management, I see how kind of sticky it can get. It can get kind of sticky very quickly.
Yeah.
Especially if you are crooked. And unfortunately for Dr. Chaney, again, he got hood rich, and he had to find a way to keep that money flowing in.
Uh-huh.
So, what was it? About 2-3 weeks ago, they finally handed down 150 charges.
To Dr. Chaney.
To Dr. Chaney of Medicare fraud, I want to say embezzlement, illegal distribution of narcotics, illegal distribution of controlled substances. I mean, there were a lot of different charges. I mean, you'll have to, if you want to see the full charges, you could look it up on WYMT. I know that
.com.
Yeah, WYMT.com. I know that they,
News.
had Steve Hensley done a huge report on it. But, Dr. Chaney, he got too rich.
And that's sad because when it makes you think, when I would look at his house, his wife, his family life, just on the outside, it was very inspiring.
It was.
If you looked at his house, you kind of got inspired because you was like, man, I would love to have that life.
I want that life.
And I had Dr. Chaney, he was an ER doctor, as a matter of fact, because he was an ER doctor for me when something happened like years ago back in high school. And so I met Dr. Chaney, but and he was a bizarre guy anyway. He came in with like a gold chain on. I was like, what's going on?
Oh, he always wore gold chains and showed his chest hair.
Chest hair, yeah. He had like massive chest hair. He should get on an award for his chest hair.
Yes.
And he always had this life that was just kind of just inspiring. And it was
always just out of reach of reality because that's not realistic. Like, when you're younger, you see it and you're like, oh man, that's what I want to be when I grow up. But then it's like the older you get, the more you realize like...
He had that doctor money.
Yeah.
And, not everybody can
He didn't have doctor money. He had pain pill pusher money.
Well, now that we know the truth, now we're starting to realize the truth. But he just had this lifestyle that was crazy, and it's just... makes you think why wouldn't you be satisfied with having that life that so many other people envy? And obviously he wasn't. He wanted more. He wanted greed. More.
It was always more. And unfortunately, he really had a good business set up if he just would have followed, an inkling of any of the rules, he probably wouldn't have gotten caught. I mean, he probably would have eventually gotten caught, but it probably wouldn't happen so quickly, which I mean, and by quickly, it wasn't like it happened overnight. I mean, this went on for 10 years, he, writing scripts and buying them back. And, and you can read all of this on WYMT. But, it went on for 10 years of him.
Does it say what he's facing?
Yes, it does. It lists everything out.
Do you know, in a nutshell, how many years he's looking at if he is found guilty of these charges?
I don't think that they have done any sentencing yet. Yeah. We just know, because, they've been in trial for at least 3 years now, trying to get things kind of ironed out. I mean, I can't tell you how many, witnesses, they called to the stand, it's kind of, I mean, it really kind of became a zoo a little bit, to kind of watch, because it got completely out of hand. And unfortunately, it set a really bad precedent for not only, Hazard, but Eastern Kentucky in general, because, there was, it was breaking news, back last summer, there was another, pain physician clinic that the nurses pretty much showed up for work, and there was a sign on the door that said, "We're closed."
Something about these Kentucky doctors, a famous Kentucky doctor now has been in the news. And I talked a little bit about this guy on the last episode that I did called Dr. Chow Airlines. And Dr. Chow, it's so funny because you are a fan of the show and you listened to that episode and you said, I have to listen, or I don't know if you've listened yet.
I did.
But you said, I have to listen to my man. And I was like, oh, me? And you're like, no, Dr. Chow.
Dr. Chow.
So you like Dr. Chow because, you've always had this weird, infatuation with Chinese people.
It's Asians in general.
Asians in general.
Yeah. I feel like they're defenseless and helpless. It's not that I'm sexually attracted to them by any means.
You've just had this thing in your heart for them.
Yeah, I feel like they're like wounded animals out in the field. Even I don't know. It's always been awkward.
Men and women, or just both?
Both
Asians. Really?
Yeah, it's just Asians in general.
Just an abandoned little animal.
Just it's like
So that Kentucky doctor, he he didn't do anything wrong.
Well, now hold on.
Well, he didn't do anything wrong in the situation that made him famous.
Well, let's back it up a little bit, because I've done my research on this.
Okay, yes.
Okay, Dr. Chow was a physician in the state of Kentucky. Uh-huh. Unfortunately,
Elizabethtown?
No, he's from Louisville.
Okay.
He was from Louisville. He was sanctioned, and for people who don't know what that means that there has been either an illegal act that you have been caught in, or something that has been brought to the attention of the medical board, that they call into question, your ability to practice medicine, mm-hmm. Whether or not you are harmful to the public. And he had been sanctioned for doing a little wonky business. Again, I think it's just, people get too greedy and things just happen. Because, a lot of, my father's a physician. I have a lot of physicians in my family. They kind of have this God mental, not my father. My dad's actually one of the most grounded ones that I've met. But, they all kind of have that same mental, like, I am better than you.
Yeah.
And it's nobody's fault. That's just them. But Dr. Chow lost his license, hadn't practiced medicine in over 10 years, had just regained his license. Mm-hmm. So, in a little bit, I can see, why he was unwilling to get off of this plane. I can see that. And I also think that, they probably should have let him know at the gate that he was going to be bumped. And they probably should have told why they were bumping him, because, if you tell me you're bumping me to put on, someone who did not pay for this seat, I'm probably going to be more inclined to get a little buck with you too.
Yeah, and common sense tells you to, if he's not wanting to move on to somebody else.
Exactly.
Don't waste your time fighting with this man, because it became an ego thing at that point.
Yes, it
between
did.
the cop and Dr. Chow.
And I don't know if it was a racial, because obviously he is Asian.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if it was a racial, a racially induced altercation, or if, because Chicago is scary. Let me just point that out. Chicago is a very scary place. And I don't know if, again, if race had a factor in it, or if they really just sincerely wanted this man to get up.
Yeah.
Because they very easily could have moved on to somebody else. But then he's already made a scene, so why is the next person going to give up their seat? Because now they've seen, okay, well, Chinaman up there didn't give up his seat. Mm-hmm. I'm not giving up mine.
Exactly.
Because unfortunately, that's the type of world that we live in.
Now they have this thing now. I think United has this thing that if you get removed from the plane, you get a $10,000 voucher?
No, that's actually Delta. Delta come up with, giving vouchers to displaced travelers. Uh-huh. And, United has went through and done a lot of changing of their policies. They will no longer bump, paying customers for, traveling, airline.
Uh-huh. So Delta did this thing. So Delta, they jumped on this publicity
pretty quickly,
because now they find themselves in the news.
Yes.
Because they apparently had a situation to where a female passenger took a stroller on board, which is totally not allowed.
It is not allowed, and that is etiquette 101, airplane rule 101.
Check your shit in at the beginning.
Check your shit at the gate.
Especially the bulky stuff.
And it's not like they just tell you one time and oops, you missed it. Mm-hmm. My husband and I just got back from Jamaica, and I'm pretty sure we heard, if you have any bulky items, check them at the gate, probably about 15 times.
How'd she get through security?
Well, I think that she initially was just, because they always say, if you need additional time, you can go. But it's common knowledge that if you have a stroller, stroll to the end of the tunnel, right before you board the plane, take your kid out, leave your stroller there. They will tag it, and you can either get it at your next destination or your final destination. They'll either, tag it for your next one or, for home. Mm-hmm. And, obviously it's your stroller, if you're going through, a bigger airport, Atlanta, Dallas, Fort Worth, Detroit, you're going to want that bag. Yeah. But unfortunately, this lady, and, I'm not trying to be harsh by any means, but she just did not have common sense. Yeah. I mean, who takes a stroller to the back of a plane?
Yeah.
Like, how did she even get that through,
That's what's like puzzling me is how did she get the stroller through security, through all of the airport officials, through the ticket line, roll it down the terminal. She rode it down the terminal.
Yes, she did.
She got it down the terminal. She got it through the plane doors.
Yep.
Rode it all the way down, and then somebody decides to say something to her. That's what gets me. Somebody decides to say something to her after she does all this.
Which, I mean, again, I think that both parties weren't at fault. It's not one of those cut and dry things where, somebody was rude to somebody. It's not one of those. And I think that's what people try to portray it as, because unfortunately, our society has this, mentality that, women in general are feeble, and we're not by any means.
And apparently a flight attendant tried to take the...
Well, he didn't at first. He was trying to tell her, ma'am, you can't have that. We need to check it. And she got, I don't want to say belligerent, but, she got very physically upset, that they were trying to take her stroller away from her.
I think she got mad because she thought that since everybody else was okay with it, obviously, that she got it through, she's mad because she's thinking, why is this one person, and who is he, a flight attendant, telling me I can't have this? So it's to the point to where, like, you're the only one that's had anything to say until this point. Like,
but where was she going to put it?
I have no idea. Because it's dangerous for the passengers. Because if you put it in the overhead and you hit turbulence and that thing falls out, that decapitates somebody.
Somebody going to die if that thing comes out.
Somebody get hurt if that thing falls on you during turbulence. I mean, you're going to get hurt. So now Delta is facing this. Is it a lawsuit?
I'm not really for sure, because there's been a couple of different videos that have been released. And, in all of these situations, there's always somebody, we live in a day and age where nothing goes unseen.
Right.
We are so driven by, social media that, things just don't, there's no such thing as secrets anymore. There's always evidence of something going on.
Right.
And
that makes me think, like, why did these cops that did this to Dr. Chow, or the airport security, or this flight attendant who did this to this woman with the stroller, like, spoke to her in that way, don't they know that they're getting recorded? I have to watch everything I do, even in my career, like, as a teacher. Like, when I'm teaching, I watch what I say and watch what I do, because I always pretend like I'm getting recorded.
Exactly, and that's the way you have to think. I myself am in a profession, where, patient, I am constantly in touch with patient, information, just constantly. So, again, it's just, I think that, the big thing that people need to take away from that is there are two sides to every story, and I think everybody's just a little too quick to jump to conclusions. They see the tail end of something and they think, that's the gospel. That's what happened.
They see the initial beginning of something, and they want to stand by that, and there's always a developing
There's always something
story.
that happened before.
There's always developing stories. Like, if there's one video and then there's another video 2 or 3 days later, you need to really pay attention to that video that was released 2 or 3 days later, because it will connect the dots.
It will connect the dots.
And people are so quick to just jump on the very first video they see.
Yes, they are.
And they like to take that side.
Yep. Unfortunately, that is the world we live in now.
With the sake of time, Amber, we've been on the podcast now for 52 minutes, so we won't be able to discuss everything on our agenda. We'll have to save it for our next episode.
I know. We'll have to get our next
This was a lot of fun.
I know.
I really enjoyed it.
Now people get to see a glimpse into our relationship.
A little glimpse of what we were like, and we took a big portion of the show just to describe our relationship, which I think it was good to kind of lay down the foundation, because I have a feeling that you'll be in a lot more episodes.
Oh yes.
Absolutely.
And people have always wondered.
Absolutely. Like, why you haven't been in the show, or people have wondered why.
I don't know. Both.
Both. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you in the next episode of Off the Cuff. Amber, thank you for being here.
Thank you, sir, for having me.
I'm Adam Banks, and we'll see you next time.